Yep. Hi, Dave. Hi, John.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Okay. How you doing?
Yeah, you got loud.
Thanks, you guys.
We're all talking at once now. How you doing?
Organized chaos. How we like it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it works. Good. Good to see you, Dave.
Yeah, and you guys keeping well?
Always. Always good. Busy as. Always running around. Good chat last night on the SRT practitioner thing.
Yeah. I couldn't actually make last night, but certainly caught the pickup this morning and some interesting topics raised.
Yeah, always. Yeah. There always seems to be a few interesting topics raised.
Sorry, mate.
Never a dull moment, is there?
No.
That's the good thing about the recordings is that you can obviously everybody can watch them in their own time afterwards or in their own time zones. That is quite good.
Yeah, that way you're not missing out on anything, you know. You're up to date with everything. If there's new ideas, new info coming out, changes, it's all good.
Well, that's the thing, and the changes that we released last night are very, very positive. They're very good. But that's the thing, isn't it? Because we got practitioners. Where are they? Dubai, Malta. They're east of us, so their time is in front of us. And we got many in the US, Canada, so their time is behind us. So it's important that we try and get something for everybody, really. And that's the power of Zoom. The power of Zoom helps us all. If only I knew about Zoom before the COVID thing happened.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
That would be a great investment.
I wish that I knew. I wish I knew about this years ago. You could have made so much more impact, but glad I found it now.
Well,
so onwards and upwards.
That's the thing. It took years to come out.
Yeah, the tech's sort of catching up, isn't it, really? That's the thing, because a lot of this tech has been available from a corporate perspective, but it was just really expensive. So if you kind of go back in the day, you know, like Cisco networks, that kind of stuff, you could do this sort of thing, but you needed to have leased lines, and the networking stuff wasn't really up to it particularly. So to actually run or host, you know, like a kind of this type of session was expensive to do. Whereas now, of course, it's affordable for everybody really to run podcasts and to kind of connect in this way. And obviously, the hosting companies that provide these sort of meeting platforms give you the ability now to have multiple people and stuff as well, which is kind of magic from our perspective. So the whole concept of actually doing training online with hundreds of people concurrently in sync is, you know, is kind of amazing.
It's so much easier. There's no restriction now, is there?
No.
You know?
And just to prove that fact, we've got Agatha who's coming in and saying hello, and she's in Singapore, so in Asia. So if proof be needed, not that it does, but if it does, then Agatha is that proof. Good. So we've invited you on today, Dave, just so you can come on, say hello to people. I think people, particularly on the Spirit Release discussion group, probably know your name, have probably perhaps seen your face, or if not your face, they've perhaps seen the imagery that you have, which is so distinctive for your guide. So I think the first thing first, mate, is introduce yourself and introduce the guide.
Sure, no problem. Well, I'm Dave. I'm based in South Wales in the UK. My guide actually introduced himself to Andy back in November of last year when we were doing the first in-person course. And he introduced himself as being known as the One. Simple reason for this, my fault. I was tuning into the one that I wanted to speak with, the one that I was going to be doing all this work with, and hence the one stuck, because no name was ever given. It has been since, but he still prefers to be known as the One. So straightforward and simple. Nice
and I
easy.
think that's a title he's deserved, isn't it?
It is his. It's not mine. Always improving, always working.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool name, really, isn't it? Or, as you say, a pretty cool title to be known by. I think that was the thing, again, when we sort of do the training, that was one of the things that came up, Dave, wasn't it? When we actually sat you down, I know it was probably a bit of a nerve-wracking session to start with, because when we've kind of done the 3 days of training, then we actually start on the kind of one-to-ones, and the mediums are working for real. With the facilitators, you're up at the front of the class. It is a bit of a hot seat to a certain degree.
It was definitely different for sure, yeah, but very much worth it. I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, I saw some of the other mediums work before me and was just in awe of how strong their connections were and how easy it seemed to be with you guys doing the facilitator role. You make this work easier, or appear easy at least. But yeah, nerves were certainly there to start with. But once you start, you're not really in control anyway. The guide's doing the work. They come through, they were chatting to you. It's a definite different experience, but to say it's surreal. I know everybody on here has said it's fantastic, it's life-changing, all those superlatives, but it is not just for the people that we actually work with or work on behalf of, but for you. I mean, I was the world's biggest skeptic with anything spiritual. I only started, this was back in 2015, so about 9 years ago, and I've had a complete turnaround from where I was. Total non-believer. I had some healing done, was told information about my loved ones that had passed, and the healing was something totally new to me as well, and it developed from there. I was lucky enough to have some training with Jonno, with the trance mediumship, trance healing, and then that developed, and then of course spending the week with you guys on the initial one, just haven't looked back since then. And then having the privilege of seeing the next batch come through and being sat the other side of the fence and watching it, that was definitely worth it. All that hard work up until that point was really worth seeing. Not so much the jitters on everybody else's face, but the anticipation, the build-up. You could see it, you could feel it, and then watching people work is just phenomenal.
It is. It really, really is. And going back to the point where you were saying about doing the first clearing that you did with one of us facilitating. I think it was Andy that was facilitating with you at the time.
Yeah.
And then, not only is it your first one, but it's your first one that you're doing with us, and it's your first one that you're doing in front of everyone. And I think the
being the only bloke in the room.
Well,
apart from yourselves, of course.
One of three,
slightly outnumbered.
Yeah. But yeah, heavily.
You had the pleasure of watching and teaching. You didn't have to put yourself out there because you guys knew what you were doing. But yeah, it was a little daunting to start with, but you just go with the flow. Step aside.
Yeah.
Let them do the work.
That is the thing, isn't it? Because as soon as you start the work, as you know, the way that you work, as soon as you tune in and you get that connection to the one and he comes in and takes over, all of a sudden, I'm not going to say the nerves go, but all of a sudden there's a feeling of calmness.
It's a very strong familiarity between it. You just get the trust is definitely built there. Everything's there. They're there. They're ready to work. Everything's on point as far as I'm concerned at the moment. Never stop learning for sure. And the beauty with this is you never know what you're walking into either. We've done some cases where it's been more of a deep healing session than a real clearing for some. We have had calls where it's a case of we need somebody now. Get in, have a look at this individual. They've got X, Y, Z, and we clear X, Y, Z. We also find A, B, and C. So we're not limited. The person might know the symptoms, but the guide knows what they're clearing. They know the issues.
Exactly. And that takes a lot of pressure off the medium, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a good question, David. How has your guide found learning to do this? Because I think it's one of the things that we don't really qualify, and I guess people don't think about, is that the guides have to be taught to do the work in the same way that the people, we do. So whilst Jonno and I are teaching the students, Chen, Whitehawk, and the team behind the scenes are also teaching the guides. So how would you say your guide has evolved and adapted to doing the work since that kind of first session? Really,
I've been very fortunate. I mean, my guide's always been with me since day one, but he sort of stood in the shadows. He'd present himself when we were doing a heavier healing session, that sort of thing. But it is a case of learning. He'll sometimes refer to himself as being the one, purely because he is the one that's doing the talking, rather than just him on his own doing the work. He's just a member of the team. He is the one that steps forward. So if there's anything that he specifically can't do, the team is there. But it has got easier. You do find more things now. But that's only coming with confidence, the trust that you build with your guide, certainly the relationship that you have with the facilitator. That bond has to be there for sure. Otherwise, it's a deal breaker. If you can't trust them, they can't trust you. There's no way that the guide's going to put themselves out into any sort of scenario where the medium isn't comfortable.
So what would you say are the attributes of a good facilitator, Dave? What sort of facilitator? I don't mean names, but what sort of person do you want to work with?
They have to be, for me, organized, calm, but steadfast as well. So, I mean, with this sort of work, as you've said before, there's many rabbit holes that you can go into. If someone's having a psychic attack, it would be quite easy to say, okay, this is coming from this person. It's been instigated because of this. And the reason it's been started goes back X amount. You don't need to know that information. That's taken up time. What you're there to do is stop that attack, clear it, or curse, or any other issue that's there, and return that person back to a state of sovereignty as soon as is possible. The thing with it is to get in, get the heavy work done, and then if the guide deems it necessary for any advice or help to be offered to the individual, or for them to understand to a certain degree why they're experiencing some of this, then I know that the one will certainly sort of chew the cud, so to speak. He'll give information as needed for sure.
Yeah, because I've not facilitated for you myself, but I do understand that the one likes to have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, time isn't a concept for this. I can say to my wife, it's just one case. We're only going to be X amount of time, and then an hour's gone by, or an hour and a half, sort of thing, depending on what it is. Obviously, you discuss things with the facilitator as well, but they know I have no perception of how long I'm under and working for at all.
So, I mean, you mentioned your wife. What does your wife think about you doing this? Because one of the things that we do here, and one of the things that we do try and go through, is that the people that do this work do have family support. Mainly because, we
Absolutely.
use that phrase, do you hear the call? Are you the sort of person that's going to come into this? Because when we see that person come forward, like you, like all the others that we can mention on the practitioner page, is when you learn it and you experience it and you do it, you're in. So I'm not going to say it affects the household, but it does affect the household, because this is your work. This becomes a passion. So having family support,
it certainly does.
It's a big thing, right?
I mean, I was very, very lucky. I mean, my wife, she's a medium as well, so she understands aspects of what we do anyway. And it was a case of, you're a medium, you've worked with Jonno before, you're out there to help people. Why are you even second guessing yourself? You know that you can do this. I say you, it's not me. So we'll clear that up. But I was not pushed, but I've been heavily supported in being given the flexibility to undertake all of this. So as far as support from a family, no issues whatsoever. Yes, when we first started off, there were a couple of pings, as you like to call them. Sometimes you can think that that's just you're having a little bit of an off day. But the more that you're sovereign, the more you learn and understand your own energy, you'll know when it's not just you having a little bit of a bad day. And I'm lucky my wife is very perceptive when it comes to that as well. She'll know that if there's anything going on with me, it's a case of get yourself sorted out. If you can't sort it out yourself, get something else, get someone else to sort it. So yeah. And it is, as you've said before, quick little note into the WhatsApp group. And now that the academy is growing, there's more and more people that you can turn to help resolve these issues. So it's just gone from strength to strength. I have no worries at all doing this sort of work, whether it be for my safety or for the safety of my family. You do hear the old school sort of horror stories and the worst case scenarios and everything like that. I've been fortunate. We haven't experienced anything on the scale that some people have. But I believe that is down to the integrity of the way that the course has been taught, the way it's been understood by myself, my guide, and the people that I work with. I trust them implicitly because they're the one that is controlling my guide. They're not controlling me. They're looking out for me, but they're controlling my guide.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like Andy and I say all the time, and you were there on phase one as someone learning what we do, and you were there on phase two as someone at the back supporting us, supporting the students coming through. And Andy and I do keep it light. We do have a joke. We take the mickey out of ourselves. We take the mickey out of each other. But the seriousness of the work is never more than an arm distance away. We just can't let it. We can't let the atmosphere be too heavy for too long because it affects everybody in the room. But
yeah, sure. I mean, the guides come in and they'll chirp in as well. They'll certainly add a little bit of humor, just chuck a little one-liner in there or some little saying, and it does break it. It does break the heaviness. It lifts things.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. So what were you doing before this then? Because you were working spiritually, right?
Yep. I'm a trained Reiki master. I'm also a spiritual healer. I've done the psychic surgery and trance healing, as we said, with yourself before. SRT was a totally new thing for me. But healing is a passion of mine. I'm also now trying, well, I'm not trying, I'm doing. I am working towards certification in shamanism. So I've got my head buried in that again. So that's something else to sort of bring into certainly a hands-on environment if needed. I don't believe that you can ever have too many strings to one bow. The more you know, the more options you have, the more adaptable you are then to face any so say obstacles or difficulties that may arise, whether it's in person or remotely. because the guide is also trained and more knowledgeable than I am, for sure.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think it's certainly on your side of the fence, which is pretty much where, or not perhaps pretty much, but exactly where Andy and I are, is that although I'm a medium in the way that I'm a trance medium, I'm a healing medium, but normally people put that badge of mediums over the ones that go and stand in churches or do readings, do spirit messages, that sort of thing. And that's really not how I work. So we do get questions sometimes about people that are thinking about coming in on the mediumship side, and they are healers. But it's that
definitely for me, it's healing. It is the healing that brought me to this.
That's the difference. If you work with your guides, if you've got that connection with your guides, you can do this work.
It's a privilege to do it as well, for sure. I mean, when you get a bit of feedback from somebody and you've given them, you've taken away the drudge, so to speak, from them, the dark stuff, however you want to describe it, and you've given themselves back to who they were. What else could you want? Whether you're just a general good-hearted person wanting to help someone out, which is really what we are, in my view anyway, or we're lucky to have the gifts that we've been given and that we're learning to share, not only within the local community, but now because of modern technology, I can work with someone based in America, Dubai, the UK. We've worked on people in Greece. We've worked Ireland, Canada, all over. And that's what some people can't really wrap their head around. How can you do this? You know, the person could be sleeping somewhere else. It's 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening with someone that I'm working with. It's mid-afternoon here. How does it work? Surely because it's energy. And that's all we are.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes this so interesting as well, doesn't it? Because, again, it's not time dependent. You know, lots of healing in the old world. You know, Chen was talked about the old way of doing things used to be hands-on, or people sat together, you know, across a table in a room or on a couch. And this is kind of the modern version, really, whereby, you know, it's remote, distant work, working with spiritual guides that we can't see. And the spiritual guides are the ones actually effectively sat with the client doing the work on their etheric field, and we're kind of organising and facilitating the session with them. But I mean, it is kind of like a completely new era of healing, effectively, that we're sort of seeing coming online.
It's a totally different way of working. Totally different way. Was I skeptical? Possibly. But that was me anyway. I've always been skeptical. But am I a total believer in everything that this can do for people? For sure.
So not just because of the way that. Sorry, mate, I didn't mean to over what was the point of change?
No, that's fine.
The skepticism will obviously go up to day one of training. How far into training do you think that you lost that skepticism? Because there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with questioning anything. You have to.
I think it changed certainly when we were doing the theoretical side before coming in to doing the in-person hands-on work, so to speak, because your understanding grows. Like I said, I always take things with a little pinch of salt anyway. That's just my persona. But the more you understand it, the more you're exposed to this, the greater the knowledge that you get. And then you trust in certainly you guys for bringing it out and doing this. Take my hats off to you for doing that, because that's a big thing to do. I think it's made a lot of people step out of their comfort zones, for sure. to embrace this work. A lot of people that I knew certainly wouldn't be open to me as I am now for the work that I do, the work that I perform with others. It's like, no way. It's stuff and nonsense. It's not stuff and nonsense. It's proven. Ask people that have received this, not just from me, but from everybody associated with this academy.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point, Dave, isn't it? From my perspective, it doesn't really matter what we say. You know, we're doing the work, we know it works, so we don't really need to be convinced in any way particularly. But I think when you see the feedback from clients, that's the bit that kind of rocks you, and you think, wow, you know, again, I've said before, we do this all day, every day, so it does become a certain routine because it's what you're doing all the time. But when you see some of the reports coming back and the feedback, you know, it does kind of knock you a bit. You think, wow, it is like incredibly amazing work, basically, that we are fortunate enough to be able to do. And I think that was one of the conversations that you had, John and I had last week on Tuesday, really, was to get some clients on. And we've had some emails come in from some people that have had SRT work done on them that want to share their stories. So we need to hook up with them basically this week in the background and get some people on the podcast, because I think that's what makes it more real. We can all talk about
certainly
it.
Is. Yeah, why take our word for it? Because we're doing the work, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, we could just be spouting whatever we deem we want people to hear. That's not the case. That's not who I am. I don't work like that. I'm not one just to feed what people want to hear. If I believe in something, which I do with this, I'll certainly stand up and say, yeah, I can do this. We can do this. The guides do this. These are the people that have benefited from it, myself included.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because I'm very much in that camp myself, is that I don't believe half of what I'm told or half of what I hear. I have to have some sort of experience myself. And even that experience myself of working with White Hawk, working through the clearing, that's still not good enough. The experience is the feedback. The experience is the email that you get after you've sent the report. And it's that I know you're the same, Dave, and me and Andy and the others as well. We talk about it often. It's that is the engine behind this, because you get that feedback in and you forget about everything else. You literally forget about everything else. And it's very, very humbling and very gratifying.
It's the validation of everything that you've spent the past, in my case, 9 years learning to do. For this work, okay, it's specifically, it's been since November of last year, but the learning curve that you're on with this, the trajectory just goes, boom, you're just straight up. There isn't really a settling in period with this. This is what you're trained to do. Is your case. Go ahead and work it.
Be confident.
And you do
it. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because we don't have practice cases.
As you said before, that there isn't a practice case.
No,
how can you practice on someone that's got an attachment?
Yeah. I think that's what makes this so different to most other things, in my opinion, is, you know, you can, when we do things, we obviously learn and we practice, whether it's a hobby, a skill set, you know, whatever you do. But with this, it's like you're working on live people continually, and it is live, and they've got live things with them to clear and remove. So like you say, when we talked about how we were going to deliver the training and the course, John and I sat down for hours and hours going through lots of different scenarios, how we could train people, how we could try to do things. In the end, we just said, we can't actually do this. They have to work on live people. And then Jonno got given the short stick of trying to work out how we could get insurance for students to go and work on live people that they weren't at that point trained to do and clear. And they were going to be connecting to people's energy fields that have attachments. And we know those attachments are going to be negative, primarily, certainly entity-wise. So we know that the students potentially are going to have to deal with that straight off the bat, really. And that was quite a challenge from our perspective as to how do you put a training course together to be able to do that and put someone in that position. Even though we're sat in the room and we're sat with you and next to you, it's still quite a big ask, really. And to be fair, I do take my hat off to Jonno occasionally, jokingly. But that was one of the things, to actually get the insurance in the bag to be able to do that, was quite a big thing, really. And I would imagine it's probably one of the first times in this industry that an organisation like SRA has been able to get insurance for students to work on live cases straight out of during the training course.
Yeah. For exactly that reason that you say, it took 6 months to get the academy insured. And so, the company that we have insurance with is Baylands, and they were brilliant. And it's not that they disputed what we did. It's not that they weren't believers in what we do, but they have to look at it from a legal perspective. How would this stand up in court? And also, Baylands, they're a holistic specialist for insurance, but they're not the actual insurer. They're a broker for the insurer. So if you've got an insurance company like Zurich, do they understand about holistic therapy? Do they understand that we've got trainee practitioners that are not certified opening a real case where we're dealing with mental health?
Yeah, good luck explaining that one.
It took hours.
Yeah. I bet.
It took absolutely hours. However, we got it. There was a point where I was thinking, are we ever going to get it, actually? Because if we didn't get it, it would give us a bit of a problem. But we got the insurance. I think it was late September we got the insurance, with the course starting in November. And my ignorance is that I've been with Baylands for years, and then literally I've just renewed my insurance, my personal insurance, and it took no more than 3 or 4 minutes. And I just thought it would be a case of filling out a form, writing down what we do, how we do it. The fact that I've been insured doing this with them for a number of years, I thought would be a thing. But it's very different when you're a teaching academy and you're teaching people from a legal point of view. And, they have to look at it from a barrister or a solicitor with their eyes. And that is where it got very, very tricky. But we got it, and that's the only thing that mattered. And I was very, very relieved when they finally came back to me saying that it was all clear.
I bet. But you can't underplay the importance of the work that you guys have done in the background, and those that people don't see on the screen, the names that are in the back rooms, making sure that this engine still turns. I take my hat off to each and every one of them for delivering this work.
Yeah, and as we're growing, so we have more of a background team helping us out. You can probably hear pings and different alarms going off. We are constantly contacted by people working. We've got people in business messaging us. We've got people on social media chats messaging us. Although it's absolutely constant, but it's because it's an entity in itself. And there's only one way going forward. And you talk about the engine room is getting more powerful. That's the thing. And that's the only thing that's important for me and Andy to steer the ship, and the engine of which you are certainly in there, Dave, and the others as well, are really powering it forward. And I just want to bring in the comment from Sharon, because she's mentioned Ruth, and I know that you work with Ruth quite regularly, and she has said that Dave and Ruth have been brilliant with their help. And Andy knows it, I know it. You're one of the foundations of the academy, mate, as well as Ruth. And the structure that you're building, the reputation that you're building yourself as to who you are with your guide, Ruth, working with. Ruth and Dave and their guides, the one and king. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that, does it? I mean, if you're going to put a trump card on guides' names and a spiritual team, then I don't think you're going to go far wrong pulling your card out and you say, yeah, my guide's the one. And the one I work with, Ruth, her guide is called King. You're not going to go far wrong with that. It's amazing. It's an amazing team you have.
We're lucky.
Sounds like a TV program, doesn't it? Ruth and Dave. You can imagine sitting down and thinking, we're not going to watch Friends, we're watching Ruth and Dave.
Yeah, we've certainly got to mention Elise in there from my point of view as well, because I do a lot of work with Elise, and I know that she does give the one a little bit of a free range because she's flexible with time as well. But her partner turned around and said, when she was telling him it's one case, won't be more than 30 minutes. See you in an hour at least. So, it's nice that your partners have that flexibility and trust in what we do as well.
Yeah. Elise is certainly an excellent facilitator and team player to work with. And she's coming through doing
very gentle person
as well.
I think it's a really good point you're making as well, Dave, actually, because again, we don't really talk about partners. We've all got wives. I've got a wife. Jonno's got a wife. You've got a wife. And, again, to do this work, we've got clients reaching out, some of them in like critical conditions, people that have extreme mental health problems that are suicidal, families are reaching out because we're generally the last point of call for help, to be honest, because the mental health sort of system isn't fantastic in most countries. But, people reach us very quickly. Obviously, we can turn things around pretty quickly if we get involved at the right stage. But that does actually have a knock-on effect on, on your social structure, your own family, your wife, your partner, girlfriend, boyfriends. And it's something that's not really talked about. And I guess we probably don't talk about much either. So the fact you're bringing up about Lisa's partner and, and your wife, how often, I and John are the same, when you've been sat up in my little room doing things and you hear a kind of tea's ready and you carry on working. And 20 minutes later, you get the, tea's ready second call and you carry on working. And then you kind of hear there's like the roof being banged with a stick, by which point tea's kind of cold and you're not in the best of books.
Yeah.
And I guess
the dog's got it.
Yeah, we've only got a small dog, so he wouldn't be able to eat my whole portion, but you'd have a go, to be fair. But I think this is the point, is that, again, it's a really good point you're making, is that this work does kind of overlap into your family structures and stuff, really, because they have to make compromises for you to be able to do the work as well.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm really fortunate in that respect.
And I'm just going to interrupt, because whilst we're talking about being late because of our work, I'm actually late for a doctor's appointment, and I didn't want to not come in at 4 o'clock and do this, but I've got 5 minutes to get to the doctor's, and it's longer than 5 minutes away, and it's just to get back into
take care.
Ambulance. So I'm really sorry to duck out early. Dave, it's always a pleasure talking to you, mate. Absolutely love working with you.
We'll catch up soon.
I'll see you both soon. I'll see everyone else soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
And you.
And there we go. That's the big man diving out. It's just the two keys left then, Dave.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, there's lots of strands to this work, isn't there, really? And obviously, from our perspective, it's a very difficult thing to explain to people because, again, we get lots of people who've got the USA course coming up in October. So people are contacting us asking, are they the right sort of person to do it? Would they be right to do it? What type of problems may they not have doing it, that kind of thing. And it's very difficult, isn't it, on this end, because you're on this end now, effectively looking out of that window.
Yeah.
And it is quite a difficult place to be able to provide answers to people as to what to expect, how to expect things, and the journey that you're going to kind of take when you do this work. And I think, again, this is something that we have sort of like covered occasionally, but would you say from your experience that the actual journey pre-training to after training is something that most people would never be able to perceive, really, because we do hear it all the time.
Certainly not. Certainly. I mean, the best bit of advice that I would give to anyone that's going to be doing this, any preconceptions that you've got about yourself or what this work may involve, forget them. Come in blank. There's no expectation that you're placing on yourself or the other people that you're working with. Just come in, take on board everything that you're being taught, learn from the experiences that you're going to have and those that are already around you. Draw on. We were lucky enough to have yourself and Jonno there directly drawing on that knowledge and your experiences, your years of experiences. When we attended the last course, myself and some of the other practitioners, yes, we were there to sort of help and support and advise where we could, but our level of knowledge and understanding is nowhere near yours. And the thing with this is, it's not just pay your money, do it online for over a set period of time, or 5 days in person. Great, I'm qualified, I can do this. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that at all. You've got to put in the hours, the dedication. What people don't see as well is prep. I mean, luckily, Natasha and Tara posted their video yesterday. How we actually prep. That's just one element. That's before any of the protocol is being done. People then don't see how we close a session, what's discussed afterwards, the paperwork that's involved with this. It's not just come in, get a book in, do a case. There's so much more to it that people don't fully understand until you're doing it. So my level of appreciation for what you deliver has certainly gone up, for sure. Naive on my part, but I think a lot of people's opinions would sort of echo what I've said. I would certainly hope so anyway.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Thanks for that, Dave. It's well received from our perspective, really. Because I think when we sat down to kind of write the theory part of the course, and then obviously looked at the in-person. So the in-person is 5 days, basically, kind of 9, effectively half 9 until 5 in theory. So we're looking at probably 40 odd hours. So we reckon there was probably another 60 hours of work. So we reckon it's about 100 hours, basically, from start to finish. So coming on, if you do the in-person course, coming on that course on day 1, Monday morning, 9 o'clock, fast forward 5 days later, we finish the course. And then the other work to do on the theory course, which would have been done as a prerequisite, really, we reckon probably about 100 hours to get you guys to a point that we're happy. Because ultimately, we need to be happy that you're at the level we want you to be for your own safety and obviously working for the clients. So the object of the exercise from our perspective is to be able to stand behind every single person that comes out. And if when you get that certificate through the post and stuff, you have definitely earned it, basically. So would you say that perception was right from your experience? Like, a long time, not a long time, but 100 hours is 100 hours of training, isn't it? In any which way to look at it, really.
It is, but at the same time, because it's something that you care about and that you want to learn about, it just flies by. Whether you're doing the theoretical part before the in-person course, but the in-person course itself flies by. When you start to do these cases, time just flies by. It's been 10 months since we did the first course. It seems like yesterday. You're constantly learning and evolving and developing with this. The changes and tweaks that have been made to the protocol, the fact that you're working with other people now as well as the academy grows, the opportunity to work with others throughout the world is there. As you said, the next course is in New York, Dubai, possibly next year, and further afield, no doubt. I'd hate to see what your travel plans and your work schedule is going to be like. Don't envy you of that, but it's the thing to do. Send it out as far and as wide as you can.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Dave. I mean, that was the kind of raison d'etre for SRA, really. The reason for being is to train people to do the work. And obviously there's the element of online training, so people can do it from home. People that can't travel, that kind of thing, or have other restrictions, can do the online aspect of it. And then, of course, the actual in-person is in person. So that part of it, we are aware there is a kind of travel schedule to kind of look at, really. And we want to try and get to a point that we can roadmap that for like a year, 2 years, so that people know, SRA are coming to my country basically in 9 months' time, a year and a half's time, whatever it's going to be, so they can start to plan to be on that training. But of course, from another perspective, we're obviously looking to kind of cookie cut the training as well. So we want to get to a point that rather than just Jonno and I delivering training, which at the moment, as you know, is very organically delivered in person. Like we stand up, we've got our agenda, we've got our kind of plan in terms of what we do. We both do different parts of things, so we kind of start talking, and it comes out that way. So, but we obviously want to get to a point that we can kind of cookie cutter ourselves and create trainers that can then take the work into different countries and different places. So, you know, the way that we envisage that is that SRA will have training courses running concurrently in parallel at the same point in time in different places with different people. So there's a massive amount of opportunity really as well for you guys, and obviously people coming in. And I guess it's something again that we don't really talk about too much, but effectively, you know, as an organization, if you want to be part of something that's kind of growing and different and you want to feel part of something, there's lots of these different kind of roles and spaces popping up if, you know, if that's something that you're interested to do.
So the opportunity is there. Get yourself qualified, get your experience, and see what else.
So have you got your passport ready?
With the flow. Yeah, I'd probably get stopped because mine's that old. I actually had hair on it.
And I thought you were going to say you can't. You've got the passport to leave your country.
I have. Whether they'd let me back in, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Cool. Yeah, that's good.
But sure. Yeah. Bring it on.
Cool. So do you want to just sort of, well, obviously time-wise, I'm aware of your timeline. So do you want to just sort of round off by just giving the people that are coming in now that probably haven't seen some of this, just a quick kind of summary as to like who you are, how to contact you,
Sure.
how to book you, what you're doing, who you're working with, just that type of thing?
Yeah. Well, I'm Dave. I'm one of the original batch that got certified back in November, December of last year. You've got my website is detailed just below my name there. It's www.healingtheone.co.uk. It is mainly for the SRA work, but I do some distant Reiki healing as well. It's all remote work that I do. There's a contact page on there, and the email would be healingtheone@btinternet.com. But again, the details are on the website. Feel free to take a look. If it resonates or you've got any questions, drop us a line. More than willing to help and answer as and where I can. And if I can't, I'm sure there's someone else that can.
Perfect. I've just showed your website as well in the comments, basically, so anyone that looks in the comments can see how to get hold of Dave, which is cool. I think another question. So is there anything you specialize in? Because obviously SRT is a pretty wide field, really. So we're looking at, you know, people that specialize in entity problems, people that specialize in haunting, poltergeist activity, you know, like earthbound type stuff. Other people look at cursing and portals. So there's quite a wide range on this field that, again, we probably don't talk about in much depth, and we probably need to. So is there any part of it that you particularly like, or clients that you particularly would like to attract?
I'm open to any and all, to be honest with you, because as we said in the beginning, it's not me that does the work. You know, I'm just the mouthpiece that relays the information back through to the facilitator. So I can't say that I specialize in anything. I can't say that I have a preference in anything other than being able to help and hopefully make a difference to people's lives.
Perfect. So, you know, like when you read the client kind of summary, is there things that you read and think, oh, well, that's going to be interesting? Because I've always, quite as you know, I've always quite liked working with the kind of the darkest stuff. I've always found that quite a challenge, really, and I've always quite liked talking to them and that kind of stuff. So I've always veered to kind of the worst cases that I could possibly kind of find, which I know it's just part of my personality. Really, is there anything that you like in that way?
Like all of it, I'll be honest with you. I know that my guide does like to offer advice, and it's certainly to give the client understanding and to make them realize their own potential and the changes that they can affect themselves. Yes, we return them to a place of sovereignty, but then they have to maintain that. And if we give them understanding and methods to do that, and let them appreciate themselves for who they actually are and rebuild that strength within them, then what better place could you give someone to start from than being yourself?
Yeah, I think it's been authentic, isn't it? And that's one of the things I've kind of
Sure.
pride myself on, working with you guys. Everyone in SRA, basically, everyone is an authentic person. We don't have anyone as a practitioner that doesn't have integrity, morals, and isn't authentic. We've got a kind of diverse range of people and cultures and social stuff and religious backgrounds and that kind of thing, which kind of blends all of these people together in this kind of really organic way. But what everyone has is the same, is truly kind of authentic people with integrity that are all working to do the best thing for the clients that we work with ultimately. And I think that's what makes it.
It's not about us. It's not about us getting work. It's not about us receiving the feedback that we get. It's enough to know that you've made a difference.
Yeah, I think
that's the thing. You can't play at this. It's not a pretend that you know what you're doing. This goes back to the training and the certification. You don't just turn up and at the end of the day say, yeah, okay, you were there for 5 days, off you go. Well done. See you whenever. It's not like that. The weekly meetings that we have, you're still learning. You're still undertaking cases. You're discussing similarities or trends, for want of a better word, for what we're starting to see coming through, and how the guides do address them. But yeah, definitely go for this. Like I said, I would love to have learned it years ago.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things from my perspective that's interesting. When I watch you guys doing things, your guys are picking up new things. We're looking at new things being found with people, or people are presented with new problems. So, I've been doing it best part of 20 years, and still new things come up that you haven't seen before. You have to adapt the method to do things. And I think last night on the call, I think it might have been Sarah or someone said, can we use this to basically clear land and animals and things? And we kind of said, well, yeah, I mean, the protocol is designed to be flexible enough that you can, once you understand what you're doing and how you do it, then you use the protocol to adapt to do other things. So everything that has energy, we can clear, basically. And I think we were talking last night about commercial property, working with organizations and companies that need to be cleared. They've got employees coming into their offices and buildings every day. And if those employees come in with negativity with them, or entities with them, then of course they're going to be creating problems and chaos. So, this kind of is really wide. And we were talking about real estate agents that can't sell properties. And when those properties are cleared from a spiritual perspective, then they go on to very quickly sell and become more amenable. So, of course, there is this massively wide kind of field that we can work in from a practitioner perspective that, again, probably isn't really explained very well. And I guess we probably don't talk about it as much as we need to, but there is that aspect too.
I think the first thing that everybody tends to focus on is an individual, but it's not always the individual that has the issue. Like you said, there's an issue with land, the property that they're living in, the people that are around them. If it's in a work environment, let's liken it to apples. You wouldn't put a rotten apple next to a bunch of good apples, knowing that is going to spread and cause issues with the quality of the fruit that you're holding. It's the same principle with people. You would want to clear that person, return it to a good high vibe, a workable place, a place that people enjoy. You wouldn't want to be working in an environment that's toxic. Remove it, clear it. So why can't it be done in the workplace? Why can't it be done for land? I know that we have cleared land on a couple of occasions. There aren't any limits to this. The only thing that limits us is our own perception of what we can do, because they don't know any different. The guides aren't hindered only by our way of thinking and what we perceive can be done. So forget it. Just go with what they give you.
Yeah, it's a great way to frame it, I think, Dave, as well, isn't it? Like you say, we are the ones that kind of bottleneck the process to a certain degree if we allow ourselves from a thought perspective to be bottlenecked. So again, we can work with organizations, companies, land, you know, property, houses, flats, apartments. We could work to clear large areas of space as well. Certainly if we worked in teams, that kind of thing. So that, again, the bandwidth to do this work is you know, very wide. And with more and more people, obviously it's becoming more and more interesting to do. So I was just going to say hello to everyone that's joined. So notice that Ollie's on here. We've got Gabby. I think Natasha popped in earlier as well.
Hi all.
So just saying hi to all you folks that are watching and joining. Hopefully you've enjoyed the chat. And obviously Dave's presented himself, come out of the woodwork, which is nice. Because this is what we're keen to do, really.
This is not my sort of normal thing. No, I tend to keep myself to myself. I like to try to let the work
Dave, you know,
speak for itself.
You know, we've got some amazing people in the academy, and the only people that is seen from the front probably is myself and Jonno, really. And obviously we've got Lara in the background as well, but everyone kind of knows Lara. So bringing some of you guys forward to talk about your stories, talk about your training, your experiences, and who you are gives you credibility. And obviously it's more interesting from a kind of viewing perspective to a certain degree. And of course, Jane's just saying I'm here too. So she sits downstairs watching. And then I go downstairs for coffee, I get told how good or bad it was. So Jane's probably the best and the worst critic.
Hopefully it was okay, Jane. Hope I've done the guys proud.
Yeah, like you, Dave, so you'll be fine. It's me, I think, that gets the criticism generally in a good or bad way. Perfect. Oh, Glynis is watching, so your wife's watching as well. So you'll probably get the criticism when you come down in a good or bad way.
Yeah, I might end up cooking.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not Friday, but yeah, I think we'll probably call it a day there, Dave. If you're cool with that, I think it's been great. It's been great having you on.
Yeah, lovely. Enjoyed it, and thanks for giving me the opportunity, not just for this, but for all the work that we've done. Much appreciated.
Yeah, perfect, mate. It's good. It's great. Well, from my perspective, it's great to have met you back. I mean, November seems like it feels like I've known you for 10 years, let alone less than a year, basically. So that time has flown by.
It certainly has. Blink and you miss it.
Cool. Okay, so if you guys need a clearing, Dave is available. You can go to either his website direct, which we've put the link up, which is healingtheone.co.uk, or you can go to the SRA main website, and on the practitioners page, you'll see Dave's smiley face looking out there with his contact details and things, so you can always get in touch with him that way. And there is a bio there that you can read about Dave as well. And all of the other practitioners are kind of smiling from those pages. So if you're interested in being cleared from an SRT perspective, or you're interested in doing the training, then the spiritreleaseacademy.com website is a good place to start. And we'll sign it off for today.
Excellent. Well, thanks all.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Take care.
Take care, mate.